Hello, my name is Deborah Kitchens. I'm a physical therapist and I'm the owner of Therapedia. The clinic's quiet now, but it's been a busy day. As I walk through the clinic and I see so many children working hard and the therapists that are working so hard right along beside them, I'm very proud of the team that we've assembled with such talent, creativity, and energy that they bring to work every day. Have you ever wondered what does it take to be a speech pathologist or an occupational therapist or a physical therapist? I've asked a few of our team members to describe that process for you. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Hi, my name is Shelley Shelton, and I'm the Clinical Coordinator of Physical Therapy for Therapedia. Hi, I'm Tori Walker, and I am the PT Lead in Keller for Therapedia, Keller location. We are here to talk to you about what is involved in getting your physical therapy license and being able to practice as a physical therapist here in Texas. So before you go to physical therapy school, you have to get an undergraduate degree. You can get a degree in just about anything as long as you get certain prerequisites that are required to get into physical therapy school, which include 16 hours of biology, anatomy and physiology, 8 hours of chemistry with the labs, 8 hours of physics with the labs, a 3-hour statistics class, also 3 to 6 hours of psychology, and 1 to 3 hours of medical terminology. Once you've gotten that undergraduate degree, you also have to have anywhere from 50 to 100 hours of observation of a licensed physical therapist. And that can be in just about any setting, but they do require those observational hours in order to apply to physical therapy school. And you also have to have taken your GRE in order to apply to physical therapy school. And with all of those prerequisites, most of the schools here in Texas, you have to have a GPA of at least a 3.5 or above in order to actually apply and get in.
Mm-hmm. And following your undergraduate degree, you then go through the process of applying for PT school. In Texas, PT school is usually either an accelerated program of 2.5 years or a 3-year program. And you'll go through an interview process, you will submit essays, you will go through a couple rounds of this before they either offer you a spot in a PT program or not. It's a pretty competitive program. What you'll then enter into is a doctoral program. If you look at some of the PT's license, you might see somebody that has a master's degree or a bachelor's degree. A doctoral degree in PT is something that has just recently been added into Texas and nationally. Prior to that, the name was either a master's, and then even prior to that was a bachelor's. But people with those on their license, they have the same qualifications as a doctoral student does, as well as they've had a lot more experience because they were there before even the doctoral program was established. Once you get into PT school, you then go and you're focusing on a lot of different courses. And I actually wrote a list about a couple of the things we cover in PT school. So your didactic work that you'll spend about 2.5 years doing. You will then also work on cadaver lab, and you will also have 30 to 40 weeks of a clinical internship under the experience of a physical therapist in all different settings. So you might be going into an inpatient neurology program. You might be going into outpatient ortho, going into pediatrics, which is what we do, as well as home health and other different areas. From there, after graduating and finishing your clinical work, you will then progress on to sitting for your national board exam. Once passing that, you are then awarded a license, and then you're able to work. Every 2 years, though, you also have to do continuing education. So we don't stop our education at school. We continue it on so that we're making sure we know the new up-to-date information and research, even after leaving school. Yeah. And then that's how we got here today.
Yes.
Awesome. We're excited to see you.
Hi, my name is Landon Hughes, and I am a speech-language pathologist here at Therapedia, and I'm also the center manager of our Keller Clinic. I wanted to kind of go over the education requirements that all of our speech language pathologists have prior to working with your children. It all starts with a bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorders or another subject area, and then completion of coursework prior to applying for a master's degree program. Once you enter the 2-year master's degree program, you begin to get experience, usually in a university clinic, where you start treating and working with children or adults, and then you also complete coursework prior to graduating. Once you have your master's degree, you then complete what is called a clinical fellowship year. This typically lasts around 9 months and includes 1,260 hours of direct patient care under the supervision of a licensed speech-language pathologist. Now, when your clinical fellowship year is completed, you then apply for licensure with whatever state you're going to be practicing in. And you also obtain what's called the Certificate of Clinical Competence from the American Speech Language Hearing Association. The education does not stop there. Even though we are all licensed speech language pathologists, we are required to attend and receive 30 hours of continuing education every 3 years in order to maintain our Certificate of Clinical Competence and our license, in this case through the state of Texas. One thing that we pride ourselves at Therapedia in both our Justin Clinic and our Keller Clinic is that we have excellent speech therapists that work very diligently to educate themselves and to stay on top of evidence-based practice so that they can provide the best and most effective treatment for the children they work with. So whether or not you're working with a clinical fellow or a more experienced therapist, we can assure that the quality of therapy remains high regardless of what therapists you may be seeing. And our supervisors and managers at both clinics help to ensure that this is the case. Thank you.
Today we have two of Therapedia's wonderful OTs, Kelsey and Aicha, and they're going to tell us how they became OTs. Aicha, can you tell us about the education needed to become an OT?
Sure. So you first start off by getting a 4-year degree. Normally it's a bachelor's degree, and you usually do it in any type of health science field, or sometimes some schools offer you a pre-OT track as well. And then afterwards, after you graduate with your bachelor's degree, you decide you want to go to OT school. You would have to then take the GRE exam, which is essentially like the SAT for graduate school. And from there, after you get your test results, you would apply to different OT schools. At this point, you would go through different interview processes, application processes, submitting lots of different documentations and transcripts and things like that, to then hopefully get accepted into one of the schools. So there's a couple different options for OT schools. There's master's level program, and there's also doctorate level programs. So the length of schooling does vary. It's generally around 3 years, but it does depend on if it's an accelerated program or not. And during schooling, you do get fieldwork level experience or clinical level experience. So it's required for us to have 3 level 1 fieldwork level experiences, which is essentially us observing different clinicians in different settings. And then we have 2 level 2 fieldwork experiences, which is basically when we work as a clinician for 6 months under the supervision of a licensed OT.
Okay, and then after you graduate, Kelsey, what do you need to do from there?
Okay, after you graduate, you have to take your national board exam. So basically, this is just an exam that all OTs have to take and pass in order to work as a OTR. After you pass this exam, then you can apply for licensure with your state. You have to apply to each state that you work in, but you have to get your licensure before you can practice. And then once you have taken your boards and you've been licensed by the state, then what you have to do is take continuing education courses so that way you can maintain your licensure. So you have to make sure that you're hitting the allotted amount of hours every renewal cycle.
Great. Thank you so much. That is how you become one of these wonderful OTs. Thank you, ladies.